Okay, so tell me about this 52 Zwitter.
All right, so here on the roof you got the Der Brummbär, which is basically a German phrase for either the growling bear or grumbling bear. It's kind of a children's nickname, but it was actually a nickname given to a German World War II artillery division. It was a nickname they used, and so sticking with the German theme, previous owner came up with that name. On the roof here we have the Berlin bear, they call it, which is the comes from the city crest for the city of Berlin, which is actually on the hood crest as well. So that's what that came from. Now on the sides, being that this was a completely German themed vintage race car, everything has cues to German heritage and all that. So here we have an old name. It's actually M. Whitman, and that's was Mikkel Whitman. He was actually a Tiger Panzer ace in World War II. He was like a big super war hero, and he had like 100 some odd tank kills or something. That's his name. On the other side is J. Piper, or J. Piper, or however you say his name, and he was also a big time German war hero. He actually worked for Volkswagen and Porsche after the war as an engineer, so his name's on the other side. And then of course you have the Blaupunkt, which is like a small sponsor from the 1950s on the hood. We have the Peter Max Müller-Rennen plate. This is the race that the car was competed in 2011 and won its class. So that came from that. And there again you can see the Berlin crest with the Berlin bear on there. So and then you can see the German flags here, and so everything on here, all the period badging and stuff, it's all German themed. Another thing that was added to the car, which someone can take out or whatever, but I used to go to hot rod shows, with American cars, and you'd always see these guys with these like hot rods, and they'd have a picture of like their girl or their buddy from the war or someone, whatever, like little pin-up type pictures that people would have. And I thought that was a cool idea because like German or American guys would come back from the war, they build like a hot rod, and they throw like a picture of them and their buddies like when they were in the war together or whatever. So inside the car, if you look up in the top here, you'll see there's some old photographs from some German photographs. The guy on the left, the guy on the right here, that's Mikkel Whitman, the Tiger ace, whose name's on there. That's him, and that's his tank crew right there. So those are just pictures I threw up there, kind of like a pinup.
That's pretty cool.
Just kind of a cool little touch,
That's pretty cool. What about the interior?
So the interior, basically, so these seats were handmade by a guy in Eastern Europe. He basically hand makes them. They're all hand hammered out in aluminum, and he puts all the rivets. So a lot of craftsmanship goes into these. They're actually mounted on the stock seat bases from the Zwitter that were actually flipped 180 and then hooked, so they do pivot forward. But those are actually the stock VW bases adapted to fit these aluminum style, speedster style seats.
What about the cushions?
So the cushions are basically, just again sticking with the German theme of the car. The previous owner sourced an authentic German World War II tent, which was called a Zeltbahn. And it was like a tent that the military, their grunts use or whatever. And he actually took the material down to the upholstery and had cushions made from that material. So that's like authentic 1940s military fabric there on that. So,
what's the red light for?
So what this is like a pit light. So this had two usage. So back in the day in vintage racing, if you were either racing like a night race, some of the cars would run a light, maybe it was a different color, so that a crew could identify which car was theirs if they were doing laps or something, like if it had a blue light or a red light or whatever color. That was one purpose. The other purpose I read was that they use these as like a pit light to notify. They would turn the light on and let their crew know they were getting ready to come in for a pit. So they would hit the light, and then the guys would get ready for the car to come in. And this is something you see like on, like in the old Le Mans races. Some of the old Porsche cars had some of this kind of thing on them, so that was kind of a cue to that.
I like the stickers on the windshield.
Yeah, so stickers on the windshield, basically, all going back to history of the car. Here we have a sticker from the Hessisch-Oldendorf VW show in 2013. Here we have an old BP fuel sticker that's really, really old. This has probably been on there since probably 40 or 50 years. Kind of weathered looking. Then over here we have a sticker from Bad Camberg in 2011. The car went to Bad Camberg. And then this is a sticker from the classic Le Mans in 2012, and then an old SEC racing sticker from 2008. So all these are places that the car has been. This car was driven to all these places and taken all over Europe to different events and stuff in its life.
Interesting red knob. What's that for?
So the red knob is, so this car is basically not just for looks. This thing is all, this is a period vintage race car. So It has period safety devices as well as a couple modern safety devices. This is a battery disconnect. So if the car had caught fire or something and somebody needed to try to rescue the driver, this pulls, and this is what this insignia here. So you pull this and it disconnects the battery lever, so it kills all power to the car.
And you also have one in the rear.
Yeah, this is actually for the fire suppression, which is what this E stands for. So pulling this lever would activate the fire suppression, which is probably the only modern piece of technology in the car. It's actually a halon fire suppression system that's actually totally workable. It actually distributes into the engine compartment, into the cab, and into the front trunk area if it's activated. And there's also a knob on the dash which actually activates that too. So
pretty incredible story regarding this Zwitter.
yeah, I mean it's it was built to it has a lot of history, but it was also built. The look of it was very very thought out and methodical to make it exactly like a car. I mean, if this car was sitting like in a showroom somewhere and somebody came up and you said, oh, this car raced in 1952 and it was just parked here, I mean, you would almost believe it because it has that look with the patina and all the little tiny...
Something interesting about the windows.
Yeah, so all the windows are now plexi, so except for the windshield, which is still glass. So all these windows have been switched out for plexiglass to lighten the car. And they basically have been converted to a strap raising and opening type thing, like the old Porsche race cars would have back in the day. So you literally just rehook it, and when you pull the window up, you just rehook it. So this was all about lightening the car up. Same thing with the door panels. Door panels off, window regulators, hand cranks, all that stuff's gone. It's all about lightening the car up.
Now tell me about the...
So these are some real vintage period pieces here. This here is actually a real chronometer, and you can see it's working, from an ME 109 German fighter aircraft from World War II. It's a working, this was in the cockpit of a fighter aircraft, and it's actually an 8-day clock, so you wind it and it'll run supposedly for 8 days. Here we have a real period, like a navigation light. So when you open this, you get a light. So if you got a co-driver and you need to look at a map or something, you flip that open. This is an NSKK badge, event badge. The NSKK was the National Socialist Drivers Corps. So it was basically like a car club from the 1930s. A lot of the guys were Nazi Party members and things like that. But it was basically a car club where they went out and educated each other on driving skills and things like that. And when the war started, a lot of those guys that were part of that club ended up being promoted to some pretty important positions, within the German army. So that's a really, really rare trinket there that's been added. And I just like the touch of it. I mean, some people get offended by the swastika thing on there and stuff, but it's really just a tribute to the car being, from its German heritage. So all that's part of it. Another thing I didn't mention here is this shift knob is actually from a Porsche 917 race car, which is a really rare race car. So this is an authentic knob from that, and the steering wheel is a Porsche RSK steering wheel from the like a Porsche RSK race car of the early 1960s. So
pretty incredible, all the little gadgets that are in this thing. I mean, it's an incredible car. So are you sad to see it go?
Oh yeah, it's for sure. I mean, when I brought it here, I just thought it'd be cool to. This thing was really, well known in Europe, but I wanted to bring it to America so that we could show it off here. And we're all just caretakers of